is going on, good people? It seems like every video I post on here, I lead off with, hey, I know it's been a long time since I posted a video, but that having been said, hey, I know it's been a long time since I posted a video, but it's not that I haven't wanted to post a video. It's just that I've been thinking a lot about the direction of this channel as it relates to where I am personally, mentally, emotionally. And I have to come clean about something. When I started this channel, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I don't even remember now. My intention was to make it mostly about video game collecting. And I just don't do that anymore. For lack of a better way of describing it, I don't want to say that I've outgrown video games, because I do still enjoy playing them now and then. But that passion that I used to have for them, for playing them, for reading about them, collecting them, it's just not there anymore. I mean, you ever see that old trope in rom-coms about, oh, I love him, but I'm not in love with him? And well, that's kind of how I feel about video games. I like video games. They're a nice distraction. But it's hard to base an entire YouTube channel on something that you're not truly passionate about. And I used to love video games. I mean, love them a little bit too much. And it's just gotten to a point where if I have any free time at all, it seems like I find about 20 other things I'd rather do than sit down with a controller in my hand. I can't remember the last time that I picked up a controller and just really sank any sort of serious time into a game. Mostly, and I think I've said this in a video before, most of my game time now is just, the odd mobile game that I can pick up here and there and put down. So I was like, I feel like keeping this channel going in the direction of the original intent it would be dishonest. And that's not right for me, and that's not right for the 3 of you that actually watch my content. So I had to think long and hard. And I do still love the channel. I love editing videos. I love making content. But if I'm going to do it moving forward, it has to be something that I legitimately am passionate about. And right now, that could be any number of things. I love collecting vintage tapes and CDs. I love making bread. I love collecting VHS tapes here and there, and collecting old tech. But they have to be the sort of things that meet one of two criteria. Either there's something that really encapsulate and represent a time in my life, a very special time, especially my younger years, or it has to be something that I can share with my 2 youngest children and let them experience. And most video games just weren't that, or weren't that. At least once in every video, I'm guaranteed to have a complete and colossal bit of cranial flatulence. But video games just aren't that draw for me anymore that they used to be. Long gone are the days where I could sit down and play a game for 3, 4, 5 hours in a stretch. I just can't do that. And I think it has a lot to do with me getting older. I turned 50 back in January. And there's a certain appreciation that you learn to have for your time when you get older, because it is a finite resource. I know when you're younger, it seems like you're going to live forever. Wasting, 30, 50, 100 hours beating a video game doesn't seem like a big deal. And, there's certainly that school of thought that, well, if you're doing something you enjoy, then it's worthwhile. And there's definitely validity to that. But it's just not for me anymore. And it definitely has something to do with the direction that modern gaming's going in, with the DLC and the shipping incomplete games and putting every little thing behind a paywall and multiplayer everything and streaming. And I was just like, man, I think that's a younger man's game. So moving forward, yes, I'm definitely going to keep the channel going. It's just going to be less dedicated to games and more dedicated to just life experiences and whatever I happen to be interested in at the moment. And I did mention making bread earlier. By the way, I've gotten really good at that. And I have to say that once you buy the ingredients, like you can get a 7-pound bag of organic bread flour for like $7. Once you get the flour, the yeast, the salt, the sugar, the butter, you can, you know, you go into the store now and to buy a loaf of bread, especially the stuff my wife likes to buy, this Sara Lee bread, it's like anywhere from $3.50 to $4 a loaf. Once you have the ingredients on hand, you use about 50 to 75 cents worth of ingredients to make a loaf that's not processed and loaded with preservatives and stripped of all its nutrients. But I'm not going to get on that soapbox. But after quite a bit of trial and error, I will honestly say that I make a damn fine loaf of bread now. And matter of fact, I'll even put my favorite recipe in the description. I recommend it with a bread machine, but you can use just a bread pan and an oven if that's what you want to do. It's going to be a little more work. But I digress. Things have been going on in my life. Two major things. Sadly, about 3 weeks ago, my mother's husband passed away. I don't refer to him as my stepfather because it's not a sign of disrespect. It's just that he and I never had a relationship like that. And he and I were quite different personalities. And in the past, especially leading up to the last 5 or 6 years, to put it bluntly, y'all, I'm not a good person. I'm still not as good as I want to be, but I'm working on it. In the past, I was very short-sighted, very selfish, very manipulative, just very, not somebody I would want my daughter to marry, for sure. And I've done a lot of work. But during that time, see, the thing about Mike, my mom's now late husband, Mike was an honorable man, a God-fearing man. He had a heart of gold. He was generous. He was like every good thing you can say about a man, Mike was. My dad, not a good dude. Used my mom. Was just, I don't want to get into all that, but I'll just say that Mike was everything to my mom that my dad should have been but wasn't. Mike was a veteran, served this country with honor. He spent his working years as a nurse practitioner, and he dedicated a special level of care to veterans that you don't get from a lot of everyday healthcare workers, which is not a condemnation on all healthcare workers, but I'm just saying, I think having been a veteran and a combat veteran definitely gave him an appreciation and a perspective that made him uniquely suited to taking care of the men and women that serve this country. But a lot of the friction that he and I had was mostly my fault because I was a dick. I was selfish, just lacked a lot of self-awareness. So what's changed in the last few years is I've gotten back into my faith and a lot of prayer. And the good Lord showed me a lot of things about myself that I needed to work on, a lot of self-reflection I needed to do, and kind of hit that crossroads where I had to decide what kind of a husband and father and friend and co-worker that I was going to be moving forward. And being the way I was in the past cost me dearly, hurt a lot of people. And I would go back and undo every bit of that if I could. But yeah, he passed away, and watching my mom go through that, it was tough, and it's still tough. If there's a silver lining to any cloud, it's that my mom and I also haven't had the best relationship for most of my adult life, but it's getting better. I think God is blessing us both with a lot of mutual understanding, and I love my mother. Mom, if you're watching this, I love you. And I just want to be there for her moving forward, and I want to be more present for her and more present for my family. And circling back around to how I started this video off, video games just, they detract from that. So anything that detracts from your goals and your priorities, it's just something you have to let go. And another thing that's happened, been a whole big drama. I was offered a promotion and a whole lot more money with my company, but I'd have had to go to another location. And I turned it down. On paper, it was great. It was a 25% raise over what I'm making now. And they would have given me the schedule I wanted. Like on paper, there was not really a reason not to take it. However, there's that old saying that youth is wasted on the young. And I never really understood that until the last 10 or 15 years. But it really is. And I tell you, there's a perspective shift that happens if you allow it. And you start valuing intangibles as much as money. I had to weigh quantity of cash against quality of life. And while this job would have paid more and given me a better schedule, it also would have been a new location, a new position, a new crew, just a whole lot of new. And I reached out to a friend that I had who worked there and asked him about it. And it's one of those deals where he wasn't outright critical, but you could read between the lines. And so I took it to my wife. And God has blessed me with many great things in life, but my wife she is a wonderful, sweet, caring soul. And I laid out the pros and cons of taking the job versus remaining where I am. And she could have very easily said, "Hey, we need more money. Go get that. Go get those bags." But no, that's not what she said. She said, "I love you. And ultimately, I want you to be happy, and I want you to make the choice that's going to lead to that." And see, I have a very rare thing with where I work. I have just a phenomenal crew that I work with. I absolutely love every last person on that crew. We get along. I mean, yeah, we bust each other's chops all the time, give each other a hard time. When I tell you it's all love, it is all love. Like, they make going to work worthwhile. And you don't find that often. And it's interesting because we are so diverse. We are gender diverse, we are ethnically diverse, we are philosophically diverse, and yet somehow we just work. And it really is like a family. And at the age of 50, I said, well, there are certain forms of wealth that don't show up on a W-2. And I had to weigh my peace against my wallet. And I made the decision that my peace was more important, which stunned a lot of people at work, stunned my superiors. They were definitely encouraging me to take it. They've always said that, we think you're capable of so much more, but end of the day, some people are ladder climbers and other people have different priorities. So I decided that my peace and my working situation was worth more than 150 extra bucks per pay period, right? Which is not to say, like I'm not wealthy or anything, but my wife and I, we do all right. I'm not to the point where I could just casually stare off into the horizon while I'm pumping gas. That would be a nice little situation, but it's not everything, y'all. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot going on in life, and a lot of self-reflection, a lot of shadow work, and I'm going to do more of that going forward, but I'm absolutely going to keep the channel going, y'all. And it's not like I'm not going to talk about games ever. There are still stories from the industry that, just from a business or an economics perspective, that I find incredibly interesting. And I'm definitely going to talk about those things. And I'm still going to game here and there. It's just that my gaming, it has to be light, and it has to be casual, and it has to be just in short increments. But I do love this channel. I love making content. I love editing videos. As you can see, I'm in my car and not in my office with all my lights and microphones and all that other stuff. Because frankly, that's a pain in the butt in its own to set up. And well, that's a story for another day. But anyway, y'all, I have, as my channel name suggests, picked my battles in life. And I encourage you to do the same, because not every hill is worth dying on. And most of life just isn't that serious, y'all. So until the next one, take it easy.